Do, 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 do. I love this so much. And not only do we have our custom music with our custom thumbnail, we also have guests. Hi, guys.
Hello.
And happy Thursday. Welcome back to another Biscuits with the Bosses. Now, originally, this was started in awareness of Mental Health Awareness Month, but even though we are now in June, that's no reason we can't continue to talk about mental health. Now, this is the live broadcast where we get to know leaders in the film and television industry over a spot of tea. And then, of course, we dive a little bit deeper to ponder how can we elevate the future of filmmaking. Now, I'm your host, rocking the rockabilly look today, Kay Ross, writer, producer, and founder of Owl Echo Entertainment. And joining me today, our fellow boss-ass bitches, Stehpanie Harrison and Stehpanie Moore of the Gemini Crown. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
And I want to make sure that everybody, of course, knows the co-hostess with the mostest, Mr. Matt York, who will be helping us navigate Restream, which, if you are not familiar with Restream.io, it is a platform specifically made to help you live broadcast to multiple platforms at the same time. So whether you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube or even Twitch, we're broadcasting it from a single place. And I know that we normally start with like, what are you drinking today? But I want to make sure that actually everybody has their drink before I ask.
Yes, I do.
Yes. Which, since we actually have guests today, Matt, I'm just going to let our special guest give us a little tour. Tell us what you're drinking.
Absolutely.
I am drinking jasmine tea. Very lovely.
I'm drinking hibiscus tea with a side of cat, apparently. Hi. You gotta go.
A natural pairing.
Right?
The catnip is right here, and that's why she's right here.
Honestly, the only reason my cats aren't here is because they're currently being quarantined because we just finished moving. So I envy your side of cats. Wait, now jasmine for me is like a really nice evening tea. Like, what's the appeal for jasmine as part of a daytime sip?
It just tastes good.
I also accidentally gave it to her. I thought I was giving her hibiscus.
Oh, fair point. Yeah, but you can never go wrong with jasmine. It's like a good green tea.
It's just it's a good, refreshing tea. And we just walked half a mile back from breakfast this morning, and so I'm drinking it chilled, and so it's refreshing.
Aw. Wait now. Are you allowed to dish on where you went to breakfast?
Yes. Downtown Long Beach at And Waffles, which is at First and Broadway, or First and Dorn, actually.
It was so good.
It was really good. Like, yes, you should totally do it. And they have the angel wing things that you can, if you want to.
They have a waffle burger. Yeah. I did not have the waffle burger, but the kid next to us had a waffle burger.
I'd eat that. I'd order that.
I was like, that's amazing.
They have waffle omelets too.
Yes, waffles, everything. It was huge.
I'm trying to imagine it now because I've seen where they do like chicken and waffles, right? Where you have like your chicken strips between your waffles.
They absolutely
have that. Yes, but this was actually a burger patty in between two Belgian waffles. It was huge.
That
sounds delicious.
Yeah. That's intense, right? Matt, my friend, what are you drinking today?
I'm drinking my favorite tea drink, a London Fog.
Nice.
Just Earl Grey and creamer and some sugar. It's very nice.
You know, I feel like I'm also doing my normal daily whatever. It's even in like basic bitch gray. I feel like I'm here, but I'm not all here. Thus, basic bitch. But yes, my normal is Irish breakfast with a spot of honey and almond milk. So I'm also going old school today.
Nice.
It's all good.
Which I feel like Stehpanie Moore and you and I are the only ones who've actually like sat to tea together, and it was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. High tea is the best.
I know that a lot of people think that it's like, a child-only thing, but no, it's really not. And it's so pleasant because your only, to do during a tea is just pleasant conversation.
Yeah.
I love high tea. I go to Singapore just for the high tea. It's a
Wow.
whole thing. Between 2 and 4. Time.
Okay, you got a dish because I've never been to Singapore. It didn't even occur to me that high tea is a thing that you have in Singapore. So tell me about
yes.
Singaporean high
these
tea.
spots at their malls. Their malls, they have just high tea spots, and you just go and you get your macarons and your little finger sandwiches and high tea, and it is a whole production. And you sit there for at least 2 hours because you're supposed to relax and enjoy the atmosphere, and it's phones down and you talk. I love it. I love it.
Matt, your assignment, should you choose to accept it, no, this message will not self-destruct, is to find information about this high tea in Singapore and leave it in the comments.
Yeah. Like at the hotels, you can just pop into a hotel for high tea. It is beautiful. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Now,
There's a whole subreddit as of like 4 weeks ago that is active about high tea recommendations in Singapore.
Yes.
25 best high tea places in Singapore.
Everywhere.
Cool. I'll leave this Reddit. It looks like it has some cool links in it, so I'll leave this in the comments.
I feel like this needs to be, I'm just going to put it out into the universe. I'm willing to take this live broadcast on the road. So if I need to meet filmmakers in Singapore and have high tea with filmmakers overseas, you let me know. I'm here for you. I'm all about it. That sounds amazing. Also, I feel like it's true. I think that there are a lot of hotels, even here in the U.S., that do it, because I remember because I went to Colorado Film School, the Unsinkable Molly Brown has a hotel there in Denver, and they serve a high tea that is delightful. Now, mind you, half the high teas I don't usually attend because if they don't have gluten-free options, then I cannot participate unless they specifically say, like, we import our flour from, European sources or North African sources. Like, I can't have it. So I don't usually indulge, but I love that it's available.
It is a thing.
Sorry, I know we got a little off track, but that's why we do this. I will say, because it is also Biscuits with Bosses. I don't have my biscuits because I've been munching on my morning hot cereal. But do you have like your top 3 favorite biscuits that you usually have with your tea?
So I don't know what their official name is, but I like the little thumbprint. It's like a shortbread cookie that has the
kind with the raspberry in it,
with the fruit in the center, but I don't ever know the official name. Those are my faves.
I like cookies. Not gonna lie, the Danish butter
cookies. Oh yeah,
the Danish ones. Oh gosh, they're so good. Specifically, Royal Dansk.
My grandma always called them thumbprint cookies, but I don't know if that's what they're called.
That's what the internet's calling them, is thumbprint cookies with the raspberry filling and everything. I love those things.
Those are so good.
They come in. There's a packaged version of them as well, right? Where it's got the divot and then the filling, and it actually has like a little chocolate coating on the top to kind of seal it in. Yeah. I want to call it Pimm's, but when I think of Pimm's, there's like an alcohol from UK called Pimm's, so I don't know if it's related.
I don't know if those are related or not, but this is they have them a lot like in the French bakeries.
Ooh. Yeah. Old.
Yes.
And there's an amazing French bakery at the farmers market at the Grove that has like all of the high tea stuff you need.
Yes. I used to go to La Madeleine just for those. I love them. They have them in their little bakery area.
Oh, yes.
Jaffa cakes. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, Jaffa cakes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's it's like a shortbread, and then it has like orange or raspberry filling, and then that chocolate on top. Maybe that's what you were thinking of.
They're so good.
Yeah. Oh, they are. And I feel like every time you guys have mentioned something, I'm like, yep, now just let me know where the gluten-free version is. Because usually at some point I've tried it and then gone, this is great, I'll never have it again. Which is sad because even the shortbread, like the gluten-free shortbread, it just pales in comparison. I will say that I've recently found it tastes like a graham cracker because it's oat based. It's called Nairns. Well, the brand is called Nairns, but it's basically like a little oat biscuit. And I like things that are not super sweet because I like my tea to be sweet. But the reason I like your selections is because if the biscuit is sweet, then I'm likely to have a less sweet tea. So, you know, there's a tea for every biscuit. That's all I'm saying. Wait. I feel like I remember, because backstage we were talking about if one of Ted Lasso's little ones in the series, right, whether it's Roy Kent's niece or, you know, Rebecca's goddaughter, were asking like ice-breaking questions, like what would they ask at a high tea? It was a terrible question about hair dyeing, but it was just the example that came to mind. But do either of you have like favorite ice-breaking questions that you like using whenever you're trying to like get to know people over tea or coffee?
I do. I ask people what is their passion, not what you do for a living, not what you get paid to do, anything like that, but what is your actual passion? And then my follow-up question usually to that is, if you're not doing what you're passionate about, what's keeping you from getting there?
Girl,
that's a deep intro question.
People, because you get to learn a lot about people when they start talking about their passion. They will go on a long talk about their passion.
I mean, do you want to start us out? Because I feel like we're going to have a giant therapy session here if you start with me.
Go for it.
Oh, damn. Why'd I have to volunteer? Okay, so what is my passion? I will say that my knee-jerk response was people. And then right after that, I was like, well, hold on. Recently, I had this kind of revelation where I've really been enjoying kind of being a plant mom and being in that hermit space. And it's because so much of my public time is with people. And there's a mixed bag when you're around people and are not prepared for questions or the next step in a relationship, right? So, for example, we have meetings like this all the time in the industry. And at the end of that meeting, if they really like you, then they're willing to do something for you to kind of continue that relationship. And I hate being in a room where someone's like, yeah, send me that script, and I haven't finished it yet, right? So my version of I really like people is usually, if not being on stage, because I like being in front of a microphone. I really do. Whether I'm like emceeing or like stand-up comedy, that's just my happy place. Educating, like it's the same kind of performative art. But part of what I enjoy about it is actually the connection. And for me, that connection formed one-on-one first. And so even if I'm not in front of an audience, even if I'm just sitting to tea with one other person, being able to hear them and understand them and respond based on what I've heard, that connection is so powerful. And so part of what I've discovered lately is that, yeah, I like being on stage, but I really like directing. And I really like directing because you have to be able to connect with your actor and understand and communicate well with your other like heads of departments in order for that entire vision to kind of collate, to coagulate. Wow, that is a terrible medical term to use, but
gel.
But the image, gel. The image is still accurate. Yeah. So, and what am I doing that is getting me there? Writing, and educating. Basically, I'm doing things like this to let people know that, like, hey, I'm here to be a connection between people who are doing really good things and the people that could benefit from hearing what they're doing. But also with the reminder of like, hi, just from a producing things standpoint, like I can make things happen creatively and not just logically. So yeah, writing is my my stepping stone to all of those things.
Awesome. See, I learned something.
And I was able to do it without making it fully a therapy session. I'm so proud. That was my main concern. All right. Thanks for tagging me in. Now, to the Stephanies, what is your passion, and what are you doing to get there?
So I'll go with that. So I am, when you do those personality tests, there's so many of them, right? And then my favorite one though is the color one, where it tells like the yellow, the green, the orange, the blue. I'm a high yellow. I am the idea person. I love just like brainstorming, coming up with ideas. I've done it my whole career, all over the place. And whenever I talk to people about their passion, I like to brainstorm with them on options and have they thought of this and have they thought of that, and let's, you know, I feel like life is too short for people to not go for what they really want to do. Like, what is your drive? What is your mojo? What gets you excited? And to feel like they're never going to get there. And a lot of people, especially younger people, just need somebody to talk it out with them, because they, especially, so much bombarded with stuff that it's too much, and they need a kind of a filter, the guidance, or give some practical advice instead of just throwing everything in the pot and trying to figure out, you know, what's going to happen at the end. So as Steph will tell you, I'm always coming with ideas. Always, always, always. That's what I do all the time. And that's honestly how we got to where we are in our partnership. It started out as a completely different idea when we started, and we realized that that idea was going to be a implementation. And so we and we're like, okay, so how can we kind of do the same thing for filmmakers and help the filmmakers out there without the initial scope that we started with, which was huge. And we narrowed it down. And one of the things that we got was just the tools that are out there are very limited. And you buy multiple tools in order to get to that point. It's hard to find stuff. And when you find it, is it actually accurate or not? And you got to go take classes and stuff to figure things out. And honestly, it should not be that hard. We have the tools and the capability to do stuff at, you know, the drop of a hat. But a big part of what filmmaking, you have the creative side of it, but you also have the business side of it. Many filmmakers get the creative side, they nail it. Spend all their time, their money, their family to help support them. They get the creative side done, but then they can't get it past that part. That's the part where their passion is. They want people to see what they have and what they've done and what they're able to do and get it out into the world, and they're stuck. That's where we kind of come in to help them be ready for that next area. Where with the software that we created, you're ready for those meetings. You're ready to talk to investors. You're ready to talk to the distributors, because now you also have the business side without having to really know the full business side, because we made it intuitive and easy to understand, that if you just go through the software and do what you need to do in the software, by the end of your project, you have everything. Because we like to see people succeed. That's my passion, is helping people kind of understanding what it is that they really want to do and then get there. I love watching people succeed. I don't care if I ever get an accolade or a thank you or anything on the back end. It makes my heart warm to see people succeed, and to know that I can help get them there if I can. To the birdie out of the nest and say, fly. Right, that sort of thing. So that's really what my passion is. I like to think tank with people and come up with ideas and then see what we can do with it.
Yeah, man, that's so incredible. And the moment you said young people, was like, yes, tell me about it. Because one of my bucket list items that has actually been checked now is I taught for a short period of time high school for film and television production. So this is a public school, but it's an academy system. So every person that's there is working towards basically a certificate. It was just wildly the dichotomy between knowing that you think this kid is going to have the ability to leave graduated with a tangible skill, and yet your teaching style is still very much something pulled from middle school, as if they need to be treated like a child. And it's so when you were saying that, I'm like, part of, I think, the disconnect for leveling up young adults is reminding them that there's this cushioned area of time, and it's very specific and it's very brief, where they get to practice being an adult before they actually have to suffer the consequences of being an adult. And if you don't think of it that way, then you completely waste that time. So I just love that perspective of like, I'm here for your success, because I think some part of that is also recognizing the timeliness of where you are right now and what you can do to make the most of it. Yeah, that's really special, man.
Right. I'm gonna tell you a quick story real quick. So when I first got into filmmaking, about 15 years ago, this one's probably about 12 years ago, I used to go to all these little workshops and stuff that they would have in the Austin area where I'm from. And one of them was this very tall, very extremely tall. I think he's over 7 foot. I kid you not. Artist. He does the, well, let me tell you a story first. He's an artist, and he used to get told, like in school, stop doodling, stop that. And he's like, no, if that's your passion and then that's what you want to do, figure out a way to make a career out of it. And I'm going to name drop him because he used to do these workshops a lot. And his name is Ty Ruben Ellison. Look him up. His IMDb chart is off the chain. So whenever you're watching a sci-fi film, particularly like George Lucas films, the Avatar films, any of the big robots, he designed those as a drawing. Like he did the drawing, and then they take them on the film set, and then they 3D render them and make the set. So the AT-AT, he's the guy behind that. But that was like a concept that he came up with when he was a kid. And it was just like something that he liked to draw and doodle and all this. But if you go look him up and like look up some of his drawings and stuff, they're phenomenal. And just the detail in them is amazing. But he's a prime example of one of those individuals that had they listened to everybody who came across them in their younger age and been like, okay, well, I'm not going to pursue the artist because artists don't make money. My word, we wouldn't even have half of the stuff that we have in the sci-fi world because that came out of his mind, right? So anytime a kid tells me, and I like working with teenagers come up with some of the wildest ideas. And then when you actually listen to it, you're like, that could work. You just need a plan. That could work. Yeah. If you really want to do that, let's figure out how to do that and how that could work. But I love listening to them and then giving them real life people or real life examples of where somebody has already done what they say they want to do. And then that kind of gives them a path to go towards. But yeah. Did you find Matt? Ty Ruben Ellison.
Ty Ruben Ellison. I was trying to find it.
But yes, IMDb, it is impressive.
I love this resource sharing that we do as part of this broadcast. It makes me so happy. Because I feel like sometimes when you do in-person coffee dates, this is what happens, right? You just get into this back and forth. It's very natural. You end up, even if the relationship doesn't go anywhere specific, you still share resources all the time and you share anecdotes. And so half the time I'm taking out my phone and like looking it up and like sending notes to myself, like dig into this deeper. And now we can open that up to everybody who's watching. That's so nice. I love. It's so nice. Before I forget, Miss Moore, tell me about your passion, what you're doing to work towards it.
So my passion is actually giving people the tools to do what they want to do. So whereas Stephanie has the ideas, I like creating the pathways that actually give you the resources to do those things. So for me, it's a lot more about like, okay, so here's our idea. How do we break it into smaller pieces, and how do we put that together? And so, like anecdotally, I had a really hard time in math until I hit geometry, and then geometry made sense to me because you use geometry, which is logic. And using logic to solve a problem makes so much sense to me because it's like, okay, well, if I want to do this, then I have to do this. And so that's how, that's one of the is being able to break it into pieces where it's like, okay, so like I have a 16-year-old who is awesome, like so artistic. And so he's been brainstorming ideas for all kinds of things since he was 4 years old, and he has this amazing story, and he's been working on it for forever. And so a lot of it, like when he was little specifically, was just saying like, hey, here's the character you have. Now, how do we build that out? How do we make it into a full story? How do we make it into something that once you're comfortable with it, if you want to share it with other people, how do we get them interested in it? And so creating those tools, that's really my passion, is helping to create the tools that gets rid of those gatekeepers, because I hate gatekeepers. I'm like, you don't want people knowing how to do this. Why? Because if you have new ideas, you create innovation, and by being innovative, you make the world better. And so that's one of my passions, is really striving for innovation in sustainable and ethical ways. So that's another one of my passions, is how do we make things more ethical, and more sustainable as well.
I mean, cheers to that. I mean, cheers all around, but also cheers to that. If for nothing else, because I think, especially for people who come into the industry, you do not realize just how wasteful the industry is. And I'm not just talking about production, although production is a very clear, example of that. Because when we build a set and then we have to strike that set, it's not, as opposed to theater, where parts of that is either, they keep those sets for months or for years, or they change it up and use it because theaters have networks, right? So other theaters in the area will take parts from those sets and put it in storage and use it for other things. And they find ways to make it a little more sustainable. Film, they strike it, they get rid of it. It's so wasteful. And again, production is just one aspect of it. So yes, cheers to that. And so I think when you hear a lot of those influencers who are talking about, like, we're looking for different models so that corporate doesn't take over. Yeah, that's certainly from a development standpoint. But I think from soup to nuts, that has to be a conversation about, like, how do we make the entire, the workflow more sustainable, so that we're not burning out companies every 10, 20 years. Because there have been some high level companies that have recently dipped out for no other reason than it simply cannot adapt its model to whatever this next landscape is. That's crazy. I feel like this is a good time, since you both have mentioned, like, your software. I kind of want to do a little trailer, and then I kind of want to hear, like, an origin story about, like, what it is you do, and, like, how it is you got there, and how people can, like, use the software. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Sweet. So we're going to try this thing, because, again, this is all new to us. Mr. York, will you hit it with the video?
Production Value is the only all-in-one film business. Gemini Crown Text Creator Suite. Production Value is the only all-in-one film business software that allows the collaborative nature of production to be stored all in one place. Production Value includes breakdowns, budgets, schedules, call sheets, document storage and contract routing, inventory control, calendars, templates, reports, and more. The holistic approach to production management includes intuitive navigation and a clean interface to create an enjoyable workflow while eliminating redundancies. Production Value software is the only film production business software that integrates seamlessly with all final draft files. The Gemini Crown Tech app works as a companion to the software, available to all crew and cast, allowing for easy messaging while on set and in times when things may change quickly. Start your free trial today.
Yes. I love that. And actually, I feel like you may have to, like, revisit it, because I feel like clearly there's programs out there that get you through scheduling and budgeting. But I feel like part of what this is kind of diving into is the idea that from development through to pre-production,
Yes.
all the way to distribution. So just walk me through, like, what was the problem you were seeing and how did you kind of solve it with this?
So I'll start. Again, idea person here. And the idea is, this is so inefficient. The way that things are done, and particularly in the independent film world. Studio, you have a bit more resources, but as a mid to lower budget filmmaker, it's trying to get everything in one spot was a nightmare. My background, I work in tech. I work with a lot of technology vendors, and I see the user interface a lot, and I have a really strong passion about making it easier for the user. The end user should not have to jump through hoops to get their tool to work for them. So that was one of the frustrations that we were trying to solve. It's like, I should not have to go take 2 semesters worth of classes to figure out how to use this software. And it just did not make sense to me. I was like, that's yay for those that want to do it. But for me, I don't have that kind of time to allot into my schedule. I want to go make my film and make sure I have everything together in one spot. So Steph and I met like years ago at different film and industry events, particularly the Austin Film Festival. We would like meet over and over and over again. And then we worked together on a different film festival, Lake Travis Film Festival, for a couple of years. And that's where I really got to like, this chick is really cool. We're going to do some sort of project together.
You think I'm cool?
I think you're cool. But not only that, but she's extremely organized. Like she's extremely organized on, especially on the film side and pulling things together. So idea, and then she puts it into a tool, idea, tool. And so that's kind of how that partnership worked, because my idea would be like, why can't we just do this? She's like, well, I guess we could. It would probably have to do something like this. And then, so she goes and does the logistics on the back end, and then I take that and flip it where the can go in and navigate through it without having to do much more than step by software. So that's really the idea behind the software, is to get everything in one place, make it affordable. Like you don't have to break the bank to get into the software. It's $44.95 a month for an individual user. That gets you access to all the tools. So you don't have to go buy different platforms. That didn't make sense to me either, to have multiple softwares that I would have to buy, and then those softwares didn't talk to each other. When we started talking with our development team, they were like, well, that's just lazy programming to make it like that. So they didn't get it either as to why somebody would do that. So when we integrated, we really did the all-in-one stop shop, what you're going to need from development all the way through your deliverables. The checklist that Steph pulled together and created for this is phenomenal. There's a full deliverables checklist in there. Now, of course, it's going to be different from whoever you talk to at different points in times, but for the most part, it has I would say about 90% of what you're going to need to talk to a distributor.
At least to get started.
You're going to get a seat at the table with it, right? Whereas before, in order to try to find that, you can't. You would get a piece here, you would get a piece there. Again, the gatekeepers of this industry they know who they are, first of all. Let's say that. That's a little T there. They know who they are and they know what they're doing. But it's like, why? Why would you make it so difficult for people to try to make this their passion a career? I don't agree with that. There's enough pieces to go around. There's enough different tastes for somebody to make a film, and these people over here don't like it, these people over here love it. That happens all the time. So the tool that we came up with was to help the filmmakers at any level, whether you're just getting started or whether you've been doing this for years, to have what you need immediately without having to go all these different places to look for it. Same as like with just organizing it. I've heard nightmares of people losing entire files because somebody quit a project and they were the only one that had them. So they had all the paperwork and that person refused to turn over the paperwork. Well, a documentary filmmaker, you could just kill the entire project if nobody's going to give the person who has the releases isn't going to turn over the releases. That's ridiculous, right? Or somebody's email crashed and they've lost all the files because everything was just in their email. They never saved them off or put them anywhere. That was another thing that's an easy fix. Get it out of your email. But to get people out of that mentality, you got to give them a tool. So that's where we came up with the dashboard. So the dashboard, when you set up your project, each file is a prompt to what you might need for your film project. Is it all inclusive? Not necessarily, but it is highly inclusive of what you would need for your film project. And so even as a new filmmaker, there's a spot in there that kind of prompts you, you might need a permit or you might need release forms. There's places for you to put that. But if you don't know as a filmmaker that you need it and you have a quality project, you get to the table with the distributor, especially at film festivals, and then they turn around and walk away because you didn't have your paperwork. Those are the stories that we would hear that would break my heart, because I was just like, oh, you were so close. And they're like, I know, but I spent all my money doing that. Now I don't have anything for the next project.
You know what this reminds me of, though? It feels like a digital production notebook.
Yes,
you know, and it has this user interface in order to ingest it, so you don't have to like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Checklist and then put it in, then checklist and then put it in. It's just the checklist, and then you, because you're submitting it through the form, the form is keeping it all together.
So I helped design a big system for the state, which was the same sort of concept, but on the procurement side years ago. And literally we still had paper files for all of our contracts and our procurement records and everything. It's like, what would this look like if we made it digital? And so I had to come up with like the tools and like your digital file folder and your digital procurement folder and what that looks like and what's in it and all that. So that was the idea for the dashboard. Same sort of thing. Like whenever you're doing a production, you have all this paperwork, but why? Let's digitize this. You know, this is 2025. We don't need to walk around with notebooks. We don't need to be screaming at PAs because they left some of the papers in their car. That's lot 2 and we're on lot 18. And I mean, we should be able to pull it up and have it right there. So.
Right. And look, having a hard copy is still worth your time. I just love, especially from a business standpoint, redundancies. Because if you don't have, I mean, in editing, we have backups of backups. Why would we not have that of our files as well? And to your point, part of that is to ensure that the main source that needs to have everything for the deliverable has it. It doesn't matter who brought in that source, because if that branch dies off, your core still has everything it needs. So that's brilliant.
Well, and also when you're talking about development to deliverables, one of the hardest things for me, and I'm dealing with it with a film that I did back in 2014, is we're going to re-release that film. We're going to re-edit it. We're going to re-release it. But I had a meeting with the director yesterday, and what he asked me for was, hey, can you do just a post-production budget for me? But then also do a something that I didn't know back in 2014 was that, marketing and distribution funds get lost somewhere in an above the line, below the line budget.
Girl,
and
yes.
So, especially as like either new filmmakers or filmmakers that don't have millions of dollars to spend, like 2 times your actual budget to spend on P&A. That was something that, like, for me, I'm very passionate about, is opening that door for those filmmakers, so that when you're looking at your budget, you're looking at marketing and distribution from the very beginning, from your development phase. You have it in your budget. Okay, here, we're going to put $1,000 into marketing and distribution in our development, so that even if this project does not go where we think it's going to go, we still have that money put aside, so that, you know, whoever is already on this project, they can take those little pieces and they can have those pieces and they can build their brands, because that's what it's all about now, is building your brand, building something that's more than just a one-off, because nobody cares about one-offs anymore. Occasionally they do, but really what they're doing is, you've seen so many people that will like, it's that movie star mentality. People don't go see the movie because it's the movie. It's because of who's in it. I mean, you tell me Michael B. Jordan is in something, it does not matter. I'm going to go see it. Don't care if it's it's epic romance. Please, for the love of God, let me go see an epic romance with Michael B. Jordan in it. Like, yes, absolutely. I'm investing in that brand. I'm investing in that person because I like who that person is. Same thing with, like, I will watch almost every Aronofsky over and over and over again, because I really like his vision. You know, it's they created something that, like, even Sanctuary, which, by the way, Ms. K. Ross did. It was amazing. I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Keep investing in her because I like what her brand says. I like how she's investing in herself, and really, like, it's it's one of the things that, like, when we're talking about ethics and sustainability, that's a different kind of ethical and sustainable behavior. Is if we're helping these filmmakers who actually give a crap about the stories that they're telling and the brands that they're doing, then we can lift their voices, and we can lift those voices that aren't going to always be seen, aren't always going to be seen in the theaters. We can lift those voices, and that's what is so incredibly important. Is I have so many friends who are amazing filmmakers, and that's all I want to do is lift them up and make it more sustainable for them, so that I can see a Kay Ross film, so that I can see a Danny De Jesus film, so that I can see a Leslie Alejandro film, so I can see these filmmakers make what they are freaking passionate about.
Yeah, man.
Over and over and over again. Because yes, of course I like Marvel movies, but I don't want just Marvel movies. I want movies that move me. That's what they're about. To quote freaking Nicole Kidman, that's what movies are about. That's why we go to the movies. That's why we're passionate about film. It's because art moves us. Whether it's paintings like this from,
I love fluid paintings. They're so fun.
Yeah, from like a young artist that, like, she's amazing, to like, the biggest artist on earth, whoever it is. It's like we follow it because it makes us feel, and we have to marry the arts to the business. And this is the way to do it without taking and creating, like, it has to make it for it to be worthwhile. No, it doesn't. And just teaching filmmakers, like, hey, you know what? You may not have $1 million. You may have $20,000 to make this film. You can still get it out there. We can still build your brand, and you don't have to like go 17,000 different places to do it. It may seem a little weird how we've put it together, but at the same time, it's really teaching you to sustain yourself. And that's what is so incredibly important.
It's not weird. It might be weird to people who've done film all their life, right? Because we built the platform not necessarily to support the those that have always done it a certain way.
Yeah.
It's from the beginning, like what you need at the very basic level, and so anybody can come in and have it ready to go. Your schedules, your budgets, your call sheets, your strip boards, your script breakdown, all of that is a part of the project that you need for your film to look like a professional film. For distributors to assist you, for you to get those deals with the Netflix and the HBOs and all the streaming services. You still have to have that core business to it. And then if you're trying to get investor money, you definitely have to be able to show them a budget that makes sense. Above the line, below the line only makes sense on the entertainment world. To investors, to the people who are outside of the entertainment industry, it makes absolutely no sense. And so our budget is lines of a practical financial budget, where you have the planning budget, but right beside your actual budget, and then we account for any time. When you're going to grant money, you have to show the whole value, the production value, the name of our software, for your film project in order to be eligible for any of those grants or any of the film incentives out there. You have to show everything that's gone into it in order to be able to qualify for any of the incentives in the area. So that's what our budget is built for. It's to break it down by department, by stage, which stage you're in the film process, and then be able to allow the filmmaker to reconcile the budget by come back and fix it later, because that's where you lose money. That's where you go over budget. That's where you run out of fundings, is not necessarily because you literally ran out. It's because you didn't keep up with it. Same thing like if you don't keep up with the money in your own bank account. Like you didn't mean to overdraw your bank account, but you did because you didn't keep up with what's going in and what's coming out, right? So we tried to make it very simple so filmmakers know that, hey, yes, I need to update my budget in the development stage. Oh, I need to update it again in the pre-production. And then we get to production, it may not have been the same as what I thought it was in development. And everything we spent in development, we got to take that out as we go along. So it's a learning process. And especially for the independent filmmaker who may not can afford an accountant on set or a line producer, to come on set and do this part for you, the software will get you to the end game as long as you can. It's intended.
Yeah. My immediate thought as you guys were talking was also one of the things that I've started doing within my own production company is anytime that we're cooking on an idea and we're taking it, especially in that early stage, some of the reasons I started my workshop was because breaking story, right? Taking it from concept to that initial outline is the most important step, because if you're not anchoring your tent poles and saying, this is what the core of the story is, so no matter how it morphs in these other stages, we're still looking at this beginning and this ending, right? We're still looking at these characters in this main conflict. However, that's technically breaking story, not breaking screenplay. And I point that out because the moment you have broken story, part of what you should investigate is what other mediums could it be in? And I mention that because I feel like one of the things that should be a discussion point for independent anybody is, can you make this into a lower barrier to entry medium first, right? Can you make it into a book first, or a comic book first, or a children's book first, or whatever, so that you're spending $5,000, $10,000 on an infinitely easier thing to sell, and start testing out your audience that way first, and then build on it into a more expensive medium. So I bring that up only because I'm like, your thing sounds amazing. Is there like a little, clearly if it's there for development, it is there for that first part of the process before you go into production for film and television. Is there any like maneuverability there to accommodate transmedia?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's part of what was so important to us, is that, you know, theater, I come from a theater background. So
Yes.
produce theater. I love theater. Theater is a less expensive medium in some cases, not all, but some cases it's a less expensive medium. And so knowing that, I also took from, like, when we were designing the budget, I was also taking from like theater budgets, looking at theater budgets and how do you break it down? How do you break it down that way? You know, because yes, there are theater investors and that's all they do. However, most of the theater, like if you're doing a theater production, most of the investment money you're going to get is going to be from people, again, like independent film producers. They get most of their money from non-film investors. And so it's one of those things that, like, yes, let's break this down and let's make it to where if you want to tell the story in a live production medium, what does that look like? Or if you want to do transmedia, where you're doing part of it is live production and part of it is video production, or you're bringing in a concert with it and you're doing like literally transmedia. What does that look like, and how do you budget for it, and being able to like really be inclusive? That's something that was important to us, was because like I come from theater as well as film, and so those are both things I'm very passionate about and I love, and I will, anytime anybody wants me to produce a play, I will do it because I love it. It's crazy. I love it. But that's something that I've realized I'm really good at, is like putting those pieces together and fitting those puzzle logistics together, and, you know, seeing people walk out of the theater and be so excited, you know. And then also with film, like you get to see how people react. And, you know, I know that's like a director's like biggest wish, is to see everybody smiling after the end of their film and being excited about it, but it's also their greatest nightmare. And as a producer, that's also extremely important too. And so if I can make it to where we see more of those stories where there was such a high barrier to get in, because it does, you know, currently there's a lot of stuff out there that, yes, it can help, but the barrier to entry is so high. It's just like, no. Like, I've been looking at this thing for 3 months and I can't make heads or tails of it. And I don't blame people for walking away from that. It gets discouraging, extremely discouraging. So
I feel like this is a good break, at least to make sure that everybody who's watching, or whether live or during the recording, that you have the QR code for Production Value, this phenomenal app. Make sure that you take a moment, scan that, and find out more about how this can help with your indie productions. And since I mentioned it, I want to make sure you guys know. So the workshop that I host is called Story Math. It's about a holistic storytelling approach. And it's basically just to get you from that concept to your outline. The next Story Math workshop is actually this Saturday. So in 2 days, on June 7th, we're going to go from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it is what I call the summer intensive. That is to say, we're going to do it in one fell swoop. So if ever you've seen those behind the scenes about how John Hughes like cranks out a script in a weekend, it'll feel a bit like that. Not a whole script, mind you, just an outline. But there's a lot of cranking that's going to happen. And I will happily leave that link in the chat for you so that you can sign up. I do believe we still have a 2-for-1 special going on. So if you have a friend, bring a friend. It'll be a lot of fun. All right. The reason I wanted to take a break is also because, like, y'all, we dived in fast. And I wanted to make sure that we had a moment because I'm a big fan of taking a victory round. Oh, I almost forgot, because we are also apparently really good at breaking our own ice. And so we didn't really actually need our prompts. But usually, if I have any trouble asking some, more in-depth or penetrating questions, I pull it from this lovely little deck called Actually Curious. And Actually Curious was basically started to gamify getting to know people and having better and more in-depth conversations, which I adore because, I love connecting with people. And sometimes you just don't know the questions. Now, please know, even with the basic deck, that they have different levels. So the starter level is the blue cards, and then it moves on to green and yellow and then pink. So, when you're ready to dive deep, go for the pink. Would you be willing, the Stephanies, would you be willing to do an extra ice breaking before we move on to victory round?
Of course.
I love this one. How does singing make you feel?
Depends on what I'm singing. It really does. I'm belting out Metallica like my 21-year-old was doing last night. I might be in a fit of rage, but also peace. So it totally depends on what
Metallica, that's so great.
Yes, it's a mood thing for me. I listen to everything from classic rock to indie rock and hip hop and rap and everything in between, country, classical, just in music. Depends on the mood of the day and what I'm doing. I can rage jam whenever I'm driving. So it's all right.
Rage jam, I love that. Miss Moore, how does singing make you feel?
It's a stress relief, let's be honest. And a lot of times it's either Linkin Park or Papa Roach or something along those lines. Occasionally Cooper Allen, actually. Jordan was laughing at me, my 16-year-old, on the way to get her from the airport this morning, because there's a song called what is it called? If some son of a, I don't know what the song is called, but it's about if somebody comes up to me and says this song ain't country, I'm gonna slap a bitch or something like that. It's a ridiculous song, is what it is. But because I was jamming out to it, my 16-year-old is looking at me like, "The hell are you doing, Mom?" I was like, "I'm having fun with my music." He goes, "You do know you have weird music?" I was like, "Yes," because I listen to everything from like Irish folk songs to Metallica and Papa Roach and always Linkin Park, let's be honest. Evanescence. I mean, hell, there's some Lady A in there and Pink. Oh my God, there's so much Pink. In fact, when she calls me,
that's my ringtone.
Her ringtone is Pink.
I love Pink.
Yes. So I jam out to Pink a lot.
Fun fact on Pink: my husband's cousin is one of Pink's dancers. And she's the one that taught her the aerial stuff that Pink does in her concerts now. Yes.
That is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also a little random, but I love the random cool stuff. So I'm here for it.
She's a professional dancer out here in LA, and she's probably choreographed some of your favorite stuff that you've ever seen. She's phenomenal. But yes, L'Oreal Hennington is my husband's cousin, and she danced on stage with Pink and Katy Perry and Chris Brown and a lot of people. Love you.
You know, one of the reasons I like hearing stories like that is because I think sometimes we forget that it does take a village. Like everybody wants to be Pink or everybody wants to be Lady Gaga or Katy Perry. And it's like, you know how many people are part of her team?
A lot.
You know? I used to work admin at a community college when I was finishing the last courses of my degree. And it was in the music and theater department because, of course. And I remember this prospective student coming in with her mom. And as most teenagers, she was very put out by all of this. Totally wasted her time. Why are we even here? And I was like, oh, what do you know, it could just be a day. It doesn't have to be a teenage thing. So I'm going to ride right past it. And I'm thinking, so I asked her, like, so what are you interested in learning as part of the music department? She's like, oh, I just want to be a pop singer. And I was like, so, but what are you interested in studying? Because all of the great pop singers studied. Like, I was floored when I saw Aretha Franklin during a live version of Oscars. No, it must be Grammys. Although I feel like it was Oscars, because I remember it was supposed to be Pavarotti who came out and did the piece, and Sting was introducing, and Pavarotti had to call out Sting, and Aretha Franklin filled in for him, and not to do like one of her normal songs, to fill in for his song, and then she performed operatic the Pavarotti song. I was like, y'all take note. Anyway, I say that simply to say, you know, do your research, but also like don't underestimate the amount of studying and work that they had to do to be the lead of that team. But also, just because you see what they do and you want to be that person doesn't mean you can't be part of the team, because there's so many other aspects of what make them great, including the dancers, including the choreographers, management, PR, blah, 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 blah. You have so many people on that team. Anyway, success happens in many a form.
Yep. J-Lo's a good example of that. Like, she started out as a backup J-Lo.
Oh, yeah.
Her on In Living Color, and then
yes,
just boom, 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 boom. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's totally possible that her trajectory could have stayed just a dancer. She didn't have to branch out. But even within that, like one of my first guests in the victory round, which we'll be adding into next, was Diane. My brain is failing me. I wanted to say Keaton. I was like, no, Diane. Of Wally Bird production. And she came to LA as a dancer and moved into acting pretty quickly after that. And through her first partnership, became a producer. And now she's directing her first feature and is in this like directing, producing groove. Anyway, all that to be said, like, do the thing, but recognize that as you learn other things, your trajectory, it will not be direct, you know? Yeah. So I love hearing those stories. Thanks for sharing your Pink story. Singing makes me feel like a rock star. That's all I have to say. Right? I don't know that I always believe it about myself, but I love it when people say it, so I can be like, I'll take it.
That's one of the rage songs. So what? I'm still a rock star.
Indeed. Actually, that brings me to, because several years ago, I started what I called the victory round, which was just an ability for professionals to come together over a round of something, whether it be tea or other beverage, and just take a moment and admit, hey, what did you do this last week that you're really proud of? And ideally, you're celebrating the thing you did, not the thing that someone else saw you do. So, for example, if you achieved an accolade this past week, that's great. But I'm like, if you won a contest, totally fine. But I'm more interested in celebrating the fact that you finished the thing or that you submitted to the contest, because those are things that you had control over and that you can build on, as opposed to somebody else valuing it, which you can't build on that.
Mhm.
You just can't because it's not in your control. So I pose it to you, the Stephanies. What's something this past week that you did that you're really proud of?
So we finalized a collaboration with 48 Hour Film Festival. We are an official sponsor of 48 Hour Film Festival. So I'm excited about that. I got the founder of 48 Hour Film Festival, Mark Rupert. It was brought to him by the Austin producer, Eileen Harding. She was phenomenal and instrumental in making those introductions and getting that process started. And so this is going to be the first weekend of 48 Hour Film Festival where we are the official sponsors. So there's 52 cities. And I love 48 Hour Film Festival. I've done it twice in my life. I feel like I'm too old to hang with all the filmmakers now to actually be of worthy contribution. Out at about 1 a.m. But I have done it a couple times and it was fun. It was a great experience. And I got to do something on set that I hadn't done before. I did sound on one. I have never operated a boom mic in my life. And I did a boom mic because I was the only person small enough to fit behind some of the spaces where they needed the mic to be. So yeah, that was challenging. But yes, so we solidified that partnership with 48 Hour Film Festival. So each of the winners of the 52 cities will get a 1-year subscription to our software platform, and then all of the participants for 48 Hour Film Festival, regardless of which city you're in, they get a discount for buying the software package. So we're excited.
Oh my God, that is so cool. Matt, if you can actually leave, it should be like 48 Hour Project or something, but if you can leave the link to the 48 Hour.
48 Hour, yes, or it may be 48 Hour Project.
48 Hour Film Project.
Yes.
Film project, yeah. I am also a big fan. That's before I went to film school, I did a 24-hour through Apple and then a 48-hour. And thank God for 48-hour because I don't know what anybody's thinking with a 24-hour. Just insane. And I've done 4 now. That sounds right. But they're great, and I highly recommend use it as a test ground.
Yes.
Right. Test out a new technique, test out a new crew, test out a new genre or a new location, or just use it as a proving ground. And then no matter what, you've won.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Get it in on time, put it on the screen, test your theory, move on.
Film and it gets screened. I mean, like it's phenomenal. You made a film with a group of people from development to post, and it gets immediate screening at the competition. It's fun. It's great. Recommend it for all filmmakers. You got to do at least one.
I don't know what you were thinking doing boom though. Sound is no easy thing, and were you also producing?
I was not producing on that one. My friend was producing, but it was like everybody was. So I was a power lifter back in the day, and so I can hold it without it like going, dropping and all that. But I also had to be short enough to get behind because 48 hours you're very limited and you're just throwing props up. But we had a couch that you had to be behind, but I had to hold it high enough still. So yeah, I could fit behind the couch and hold the mic without it dipping down into the scene. So that's how I got that job.
Making it work by extension alone.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Well, cheers to that. Cheers to the partnership, and cheers to your, foresight to be like, continue to get our names out there. We need to partner. Who's someone we can partner with? And I think that's a great one because, I mean, you get all ranges of filmmakers that go to 48 Hour Film Festivals.
And they're international now. They're in all over London and they're in Canada. I was just like, yeah.
Yes.
Way to go.
So exciting.
Thank you.
I feel like Miss Mole, do you have another victory that you would like to claim? Because that feels very like
specific.
That was
ours.
So is the WIFT Austin one.
Yes, we also partnered with WIFT Austin. You want to? So Women in Television and Film, what WIFT stands for. We are a community partner with them, and so all members get 15% off of the software platform through WIFT, and then we have a meeting Wednesday with their programming team to see what we can put in a workshop schedule for them, workshop and education, things like that.
So cool. I love it. Go ahead.
We couldn't do those without other people putting together these events. So like we couldn't partner with 48 Hour unless they were open to that. And also their local people are going out and talking about 48 Hour because I mean they do a great job of promoting it and getting people around. And that was at a WIFT Austin event where I met Eileen to do the 48 Hour Film Festival collaboration because I'd literally signed with Austin like 2 hours before I went to their mixer as the community partner. So those were a couple of really good wins I've had in the past few weeks.
Yeah, man.
We're excited about.
Wait. Yes, hearty cheers. That is phenomenal. Congratulations. I love that you can actually cheers in person. That's so great. Look, I told you before, you're literally like you're speaking into fruition right now because I would love for this podcast to eventually become like in person. So because the cadence of conversation is so much easier when you're in person.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for getting us started by being in person.
Well, thank you for being flexible and coordinating while I'm in LA.
Yeah, man. I mean, while you're in LA, we should actually like in real life get together.
Yes.
I'll be back in a couple weeks though too. So I'm in LA twice this month. What?
Crazy. Wait, what? Are you allowed to talk about why? What's bringing you to LA?
This time I'm here for you and for Cinegear, and we're going to NostalgiaCon. We are partnering with Jessica
Calvello.
I was going to botch her last name. Who's one of the voice talent for Attack on Titans and so many other things. But she's writing a film. We met her through Stage 32, Austin, with one of Ashley's mixers there in Austin. So we met Jessica there. We're working with Jessica on her teleplay and her concept, and we're going to produce it. But she's in here this weekend. Actually, she probably just landed about an hour ago for NostalgiaCon. And so after we go to Cinegear, we're going to go to NostalgiaCon and support Jessica and maybe see Steph's childhood celebrity crush there. So
It's Devin Sawa, let's be real.
Devin Sawa, yes, he's supposed to be there.
Casper. It's
I remember.
Thing.
It's so funny too because I feel like he had the briefest on-screen time and the biggest response.
Yes.
And it was all built on anticipation.
Can I keep you?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you can.
Then I'll be back in a couple weeks because it's my husband's 50th. And we're flying in and we're going to San Jose. And then we're driving down the coast until we have to tear off because of the fires. And then we'll come into LA. Yeah. They were spending his birthday week in California.
Very cool.
This one. So yeah, let's do drinks or something.
Yeah, man. As long as we can like cap it at Austin Wild, because for me, this is the first time I'd ever been to Austin Film Festival when I met you both, and
sorry,
just apologize.
What happens at the Driscoll stays at the Driscoll.
Please.
That's just
what also happens at the firehouse stays at the firehouse. Unless it's RB, and then it's just funny.
Driscoll. Just saying.
And
BFF, that's code.
So we're not going to talk about the guy who came in and yelled. That was just weird.
Yeah.
The street accent in Austin. No, and that's just really exciting to hear because I do feel like part of the lifeline of the industry is it's not just a matter of like networking, it's actually connecting at networking events, right?
Yes.
Not just do you get along, but like what are you doing and how can I support you, right? What am I doing and how can it help more than just myself? And when you see, those kind of puzzle pieces start to fit together, like that's really where the magic happens. And in my brain, I'm like, y'all rock, because I know I have like untold amount of connections that I made at Austin, and I just have to like kind of reconnect with them now because personal stuff and medical stuff, and here we are. But I feel like to that end, I also kind of wanted to, because the moment you were like, we finalized that right before the the panel happened or whatever, like, so what has been your experience when pursuing those partnerships? Like, do you find that it takes some time to bake, or does it happen that quickly where it's like, one phone call, one, meeting, and then it's like, yeah, let's make this happen.
So in my experience, it happens because somebody else is championing you. So like, for example, at the WIFT event, I ran into a filmmaker who I met really early on in my filmmaking career. Her name's Sheridan Bedford, and she's phenomenal. She's done a ton in the Austin scene as far as helping people like launch their careers. She runs a group called Austin Film Meet, and they meet together and make short films together, like over and over and over. And you get to try different roles. You get to do the camera. You can be the screenwriter, and you can be the director. You can be the producer. So everybody's getting a credit. Everybody's doing something. And I met her about the same time I met Steph, about 15 years ago. And it was funny because I haven't seen her in a little bit, just due to life and stuff happening. And she was at the WIFT event that I went to that night after I had met with, I'd already met with Jessica at WIFT and signed the community partner event. But Sheridan was really like, oh my God, you guys need to meet Steph. You guys need to meet Steph. And so everywhere she's like, you guys need to meet Steph. And so that's what helped with the 48 hour. That also helped get another partnership with the Austin ATX Television Festival. We're working on that one, but that's also just due to follow up and timing because their festival was just last weekend. So that was a little bit crazy. And then working out those partnerships, it does take more than one touch. You just can't just like walk up to somebody and be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. They do need to get to know you a little bit, but it does help if you have somebody else that you've already worked with that can vouch for you. That's anything in my experience where somebody's going to go to bat for you and say, yes, I would trust this person. I'm working with this person. You guys need to work with them too. That is and I call those your champions. You have your champions in your corner for you. Those are always extremely helpful. And not only that, but everybody needs at least one champion. I think everybody needs at least one champion who is going to speak their name into rooms that they're not in, positively speak the name into rooms that person isn't in. And that's how you start building the network. And then you got to show up. You can't just have your name spoken and then not do the follow-up on it. Because if you don't do the follow-up on it, now you're flaky, right?
Yep.
So actually continuing up and doing that follow-up. Everybody's super busy. So even if it feels like it's been a long time in between those connections, don't hesitate to reach back out because life happens. And I can't tell you how many times I've reached back out to somebody and they're like, oh my God, I've been thinking about you for like the past 3 months. I just haven't had time to whatever. So don't think a connection is lost just because there's been time in between. If it's lost because you're not doing anything with it. So
yeah.
Well, and the relationships have to be true relationships. I mean, like I've known Jessica from WIFT for 9 years now, and like we've kept those relationships up. It's like with Austin Film Festival, I've known how many people at Austin Film Festival for the last 16 years, and I keep those relationships up. Even the ones that have moved on. Like there's so many people that I'm still close to because I want to get to know them. I want to know what they do. And, one of my favorite people in the world, a lot of people are scared of her, including me, Barb Morgan. I freaking love that woman, but she's scary as hell, but I love her.
She's not scary. She is extremely confident, and confident women give off a different persona. She's not scary though. I love Barb.
I do too. But like, you know, it's one of those things that like she is one of those people that I look up to because of what she has done in the industry, how she has championed the industry, and how she has stood up for the people she loves and the nonprofit she cares about, which is she cares about AFF, and she will fight to the death for AFF because one, it's her baby, but two, because she knows what she's doing. She is an incredible human, an incredible executive director, and somebody who, like, if you want to see somebody who will work their butt off for you, if she really believes in something, she's one of those people. You know, there's so many other amazing humans out there too, but it's really making those relationships. And, you know, I'm not going to say like the first year I worked for AFF, which was like 15 years ago, that I knew who Barb was. She didn't know who I was. But then like you just keep working with it. Like if you love it, you love it. And like I've actually had the chance, which I think is amazing, to tell her how important AFF is to me and how much it has influenced my trajectory and where I am now.
Well, totally. Like this whole thing right here wouldn't be happening without AFF. Like this whole we wouldn't have met Kay. I wouldn't have met Stephanie to the level that I met. I might have met her eventually, but not to the level that I know her and would have said, hey, I want to work with this person. Had it not be Austin Film Festival. Yeah. And then the people that they bring in, and then just the opportunities that you have to go sit at the Driscoll and not talk about it later because, you know, Lavender Driscoll stays at the Driscoll. But Barb's vision for the Austin Film Festival, she as one of, in my opinion, one of the few festivals that has really stayed true to what its origins started out and hasn't come to the commercialized aspect of it. It really is a film festival for filmmakers. And it is an amazing network opportunity. You get to meet the professional writers, the showrunners, the producers, their agents and managers. You get to meet other people in other industry areas, your areas like Stage 32, like Gemini Crown Tech, like all of these other areas that you may or may not have that same opportunity and the same level of intimacy that you have at Austin Film Festival, because it's not like the presenters up here and you only ever see them up here. No, they're out and about. They're at the mixers. They're at the barbecue. Everybody goes to the barbecue. You know, they're going to the rooftop parties. You know, they're out. They're not just at their panel and then you don't ever see them again. So you have those opportunities to do that, and that's a special one. So if there's a film festival that you're wanting to actually go to and make, in my opinion, make meaningful collaboration efforts and those connections, Austin Film Festival is one of the best ones to go to. And I go to film festivals.
I do too.
But I love film festivals. That's how we got started on our software, trying to make it better for the independent filmmaker.
Yeah, man. That's incredible. I feel like my last questions because we dove deep really fast, so I feel like I don't have to really dive into the deep at the end. But usually my final questions are like, what do you hope for the future of filmmaking?
Get rid of the gatekeepers. Really, like, make it more accessible and equitable for independent filmmakers, for those stories to be told. That's my biggest hope, is that by making it more sustainable, by making it more equitable, by making it more ethical, one, it can be a sustainable career for more people.
Yeah.
And more stories too. But also, like, just, you don't have to be an MBA to do to be able to do this correctly. You don't have to hire an MBA to do it. If you do, great. But business is logic. That's what it is. It's being logical about it. And by being organized and being able to create things where it's not like so high of a barrier to entry that you have to essentially be a millionaire to be able to do it, that's not fair. That's not how the best art gets made. The best art gets made by the people who are most passionate about it. And so it's my hope is that we break down some of those barriers. And like we saw in 2008 to 11 with the rise of like essentially prestige TV and the streamers and things like that, where like it was all of a sudden the floodgates opened and you saw so much independent film coming out, and like really good independent film. Like that's when A24 rose. That's when that's
one of my faves.
Yeah, that's when Blumhouse really started taking off. And those are horror, like they tend towards horror, but they also tend towards really good story. That's what they care about, is really good story. It's not about the splashiness, it's about the story. You know, Focus has always had that, where it's about the story, but they're prestige drama, which is always going to be more expensive. You know, it's more accessible. Those are more accessible. How can we do that and create even more of an ecosystem that really celebrates and helps filmmakers who may not even be to the point of the $3 to $5 million range that, you know, Blumhouse tends to stick to, but like even those $100,000 or those $50,000 films, like how do we do that? How do we make it more equitable? And how do we get those? Because I mean, I've seen some amazing stories from some little bitty filmmakers that, you know, they're like, yeah, I had like $6,000, but their story was so good. And that's what matters, is the story. I don't watch a film for the splashiness unless like I literally don't want to think. If I'm going to watch a movie, I want to watch a movie that makes me feel.
Yeah. For the record, this is entirely one of the reasons that this broadcast even came about, was because I was doing a lot of conversations behind the scenes with different creatives, including producers, about, hey, I know you know, but I'm just going to say it out loud, that the way that we pay and protect our below the line is so incredibly, not just disrespectful, but you have to know that they are risking their lives by agreeing to the terms that you set before them.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about because of, you know, healthcare coverage, because between projects they have none. And I'm not just talking about, you know, when you claim day rates but don't claim overtime, how that F's people up. And even how, you know, reality television and, you know, game shows and that kind of thing, they were able to get in below the line at such a lower rate that part of what we've done in this system, at least in the United States, is erode creative masters to the point where not only are they not becoming masters of their craft because they can't survive in the industry long enough, but they actually will leave the industry in order to survive, which means they're not learning their craft in the industry. And should they want to have a better life, they have to leave the industry. And that is a terrible 1-2 combination that literally you're just purging yourself of creatives. I'm not saying no wonder we're looking to AI. I'm just saying, look at what had previously happened when you don't foster the up and coming. And that includes protecting them. That includes, you know, looking out for, and there are huge reports right now about major production companies, major productions that, construction workers or, you know, any of those below the line people are still waiting for their paychecks.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, well, first off, that shit happens all the time. This is newsworthy because it's major productions. But secondly, let's just look at how ridiculous it is that that's happening to the people who are already not getting the best deals.
Exactly.
It's just insane. So I 1000% agree with you, Ms. Moore, about, you know, I hope too for the future of filmmaking that part of that is we're beginning to look at how to sustain the industry by also respecting the, you know, the below the line, the workers, and in doing so ensure that not just the pipeline, but the people who protect the pipeline keep everything flowing at maximum so that we can focus on the story and not on the effing workflow. That shouldn't be our focus. That should be a given.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's something that, like, Stephanie and I both, as producers, I will shut down filming if my actor treats my PAs like crap. It's just not going to happen. And I have done it before because I'm like, no, you do not get to treat the person who is working the hardest on this set, literally the hardest on the set, like they are nothing. No, that is not acceptable. And it does not make me popular. I don't care. I'm not there to be popular. I'm there to protect my crew.
Yeah.
That is my job. That is literally a producer's job. If you are a damn good producer, that is what you will do. You will protect your people. And that means telling your first AD. Most first ADs are going to want to, wrap up, but like that's being able to be the bad guy and be like, okay, you know what? We're at 14 hours. We got to stop. I know it's going to cost us money. I don't care. I care about my people getting home safely at night, not falling asleep on the way home. I care about enough turnaround that they're not putting themselves in physical danger trying to get to work so that they can feed themselves the next day. Like, exploitation is not okay. And, that's another hope that I have with like what we're building with our software, is that it also builds in some of those safety nets of like, if you're doing this way, if you're budgeting correctly, then not only do you have that contingency so that if you do go down, do go long one day, it's not going to completely be like, okay, no, we're going to have a 16-hour day and then I need you back in 6 hours. No, absolutely not.
There's accountability built into it. So part of the alert system that we have in the software. So you heard on the trailer, you may not have heard on the trailer. So there's a software program, and then there's a compatible app. The app is really for your cast and crew, so they can have access to the alerts, the calendars, the notifications, their call sheets, things like that, without having to see the whole software. They don't need all of that. But our alert systems are in there. So when we were developing this, there was a lot of stuff going on the safety side of a particular film that people lost their lives on because safety protocols weren't followed. I won't name the film here because everybody knows it, what happened, and then all the trials afterwards. But anyway, that was a piece of what we utilized I was heartbroken at the time because that should have never happened, right? And a lot of people felt that same way. And we were literally having discussions in the school as some of the trial was going down with what happened, and was like, what could have happened differently? How could that have been prevented? One is accountability, full accountability on set. So part of what our software does is it allows you as the producer, as the director, as the first AD to send notifications out through the app. And so it pops up on people's phones that, hey, we have a weapon on set today, and here's who the handler is for that weapon. And if you see somebody that is not on this list, their picture included, you need to report that in. It makes the whole set be accountable, and not just the producers, not just the directors, but everyone on set is now accountable, because it's like you're not supposed to have the weapon according to what was sent out today in our daily notifications.
Yeah.
Wrong person. Where's the handler for this? And why is that weapon out? We're not even filming today. You give the power to everybody on set to now have speak up and have a voice. Whereas some people before wouldn't have spoken up because the person who's holding that weapon is the star of the show. And so they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to say anything because obviously this person knows what they're doing. You can't assume that. That's not what they're supposed to be doing that day, and it's not being held appropriately on set. You can give everybody on set the power to speak up, right? And by doing so, you're less likely to even have that incident happen in the first place, because now everybody knows, not just a few people. And so you can't hide it. You can't kind of play around with that serious stuff like that. Same thing for other levels of accountability. We have alerts in there as to whenever you've gone over your allotted hours for the day. Everyone on set, like, this person's clocked in at this time. They've been here 15 hours. They need to go home. They need to be done. But it's just.
Does the individuals can clock in from the app?
Yeah.
Yes. I
So
love that.
When they show up on set, instead of having the piece of paper that your poor PA is trying to keep up with all day and trying to run around and make sure everybody's signed in for the day, right, to get their hours, especially on the hourly rate folks or on the day rate folks, they have to show with when they got there and when they left, right? You can clock in on the app through a QR code, and you can clock out on the app through a QR code. But that QR code also will notify the producer that, hey, Kay's been on set for like 16 hours. What, like, are you approving this? So, you get the notifications, right? So there's safety built in to what we put together. And yes, it's there to help the filmmakers be more efficient in their filmmaking, but also helps them to be more accountable, more ethical, more equitable with their filmmaking process, and in not just putting all the onus for the protections of the integrity of the film, of the safety protocols on set in a few people's hands. When you give the power to everybody, it makes the set so much safer, and it makes people feel welcome at work whenever they know that.
No! What just happened? Add to the stream. Where did they go? I'm gonna text her and let her know. Oh no, where did you go? Well, in the event that we can't solve that soon, because clearly we can keep going because this is amazing. Yeah, I just love, oh, are they coming back? I see SAS. Maybe. We'll see. I do adore that people took their passions and their skills and they're leveraging it to help more than just themselves, right? This is available to everybody and it's certainly available to all levels. So if you have not yet checked out Production Value, I highly recommend it. And as someone who used to teach production management themselves, I can tell you that functionality that crosses beyond just pre-production and post-production is a huge advantage because things do get lost in the sauce. And if you are working towards that deliverable, totally worth your time. And when we say deliverable, we really do mean not just the completed audio-visual medium in hand. We're also talking about all of the materials that are required when you deliver it. And a lot of times those deliverables, we don't think about the final script. We don't think about the closed captioning. We don't think about all of the, signed documentation that says, you have the rights to X, Y, and Z. So all of those things, hugely important. And of course, you want to know that as soon as possible so that you can be successful. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Before I forget, because Matt, you've been riding the wave with us. Any victory you wish to claim from this past week?
Sure. I've just been working on my next video. Just writing out the script for that. Hello, welcome back.
What in the world happened?
The battery
died.
Yep, that'll happen. Oh heavens! But I feel like it was the universe saying, "Hey, by the way, I know you can keep going, but most people don't want to watch beyond an hour and a half of anything." You guys rock. In case you didn't know, I love what you're doing, and I love your journey. And I'm so glad I had a chance to meet you both at Austin Film Festival. I can't wait to see you soon.
Yay! Matt,
say again?
I think we popped back in when Matt started talking about his win.
No, you're all good.
Oh, okay.
The video you are scripting right now, which if you're in progress, I won't disturb, but is there something in particular you were particularly proud of that you did? Like, that's the thing that you're doing, but your effort towards that.
Right. It's just getting it done. My last video took me about a month and a half to create, just from start to finish. And a large part of that was scripting because I have never done scripting. The most I've done is a journalism class in high school. So just sitting down yesterday for a large part of an afternoon, I wrote through half of it, and just like got words on a page. That was good.
Yeah, and
that is a big accomplishment, getting the words on the page.
Yeah, it is. Cheers to that, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Especially
with pushing outside your comfort zone. It is no fun thing, but always worth it. Always worth it. Mm-hmm. And just to double down on the importance of scripting, because whether you're doing a video or film, just sometimes it's worth it to know what you want to say and then have the visuals to support it. So as opposed to filmmaking, which when you're doing screenplay writing, that's not always the way that it unfolds. Sometimes the things that come out of you are the things you want to see first, and then you put in dialogue to support it. So, so at the very least, part of what you're putting on the page is just, this is my intention, and then you can rework it as other things filter in. So yeah, good for you to try to streamline these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, I won't hold you all any further, but just another friendly reminder that please, please, please check out Production Value, which I think I may have to do myself, because now that I know that you accommodate transmedia, I'm gonna have to do that. And for those of you who are listening, whether live or recorded, I hope you have a lovely weekend. We do have another guest lined up for next week, but I don't have the information, so I can't give you the bio yet. But tune in next week, because we love talking with more leaders in the film and television industry, so that we can work towards, elevating the future of filmmaking. And hopefully you have time to stop for a bit of a tea and a chat. Ta-ta!
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Which I think I can, as opposed to Zoom, I can just hit end stream, and you guys can still stay here for a minute if we want to have